What if being courageous looks different than what you expected? What if it doesn't look like boldness, but simply looks like willingness? Hi, friend. Welcome to Amazing by Design. I'm Lucy Ann, and I'm glad you tuned in today. This space is intentionally created for us to slow down, quiet the noise, and make room to encounter God in the midst of our everyday lives. So grab your coffee or your tea and let's settle into today's conversation. No matter where you are right now, maybe you're not in a place where you can sit with a warm mug in hand. Maybe you're driving or walking. Nonetheless, together, let's take a deep breath to settle our heart and our mind. Today, I want to open this conversation talking about something that many women resist. Yet, when embraced, it's one of the things that propels us forward in ways we couldn't even imagine. This episode is about embracing the courage to grow out loud. Let me explain. I've noticed, both within myself and with the women that I serve, there's a longing to grow and become the women God created us to be. We want to step boldly into the life and the calling that He's prepared for us. But often we get stuck somewhere between desire and momentum. And what's holding us back isn't often obvious. It isn't our lack of faith or our lack of ability, and it isn't our lack of desire. What holds us back is the fear of getting it wrong, of making a mistake and stepping into unknown territory and wondering what that might look like to others around us. Not to mention the outright fear of stepping into something new before we feel completely ready. Consequently, quietly, and without meaning to, we start believing that our growth as a Christian woman is only safe if it looks polished, if we appear confident every step of the way. And we never, ever question our faith along the journey. However, those expectations go far beyond what it means to actually walk by faith in our everyday life. Because real spiritual growth doesn't look like any of that. It never has. There have been seasons in my own life when I believed that by over preparing, I could avoid making mistakes. In reality, I was holding myself to an impossible standard. And before long, without even noticing it happening, I went from aiming for excellence to trying to be perfect. And here's what I discovered. Trying to be perfect and not make mistakes, it didn't help move the needle forward. It didn't help me move into a higher version of myself. Rather, it made me shrink back. It made me hesitate. It caused me to overthink everything. I would even second guess what I already knew was right in my own spirit. Because of that, it was hard to get out of my own way and really see what was possible. Until one day, probably out of pure exhaustion, I had an aha moment. Something clicked, and it changed everything for me. I realized in that moment, God was never asking me to be perfect. He was inviting me to simply become, to grow gently, to try new things, to learn, and to walk with Him through the beautiful, imperfect process of growth. There was nothing I needed to prove once I realized and owned the truth that God already knows me, every strength and every weakness. And He knows you too. I want to take a moment to offer a different perspective regarding making mistakes. So let me share this with you, especially if you have a tendency to be hard on yourself. Mistakes don't disqualify you. They reveal areas where you're learning, and in that space, that's where growth happens. Mistakes don't mean you failed. They mean you're becoming the highest version of who God created you to be. There is such a clear distinction between excellence and perfection. And I can say this confidently because I learned it the hard way. Excellence says, I'll give my best and I will keep showing up. Perfection, on the other hand, leaves no space for our humanity. And the thing is, God's not asking us to shut down the human side of our journey. He's inviting us to walk with Him as we grow in the real, everyday, imperfect mix of all of it. Last week I mentioned that pressure has a voice. And it shows up again here in a very sneaky way. In this regard, the voice of pressure tries to tell us this: that we need to have it all figured out before taking a step into unknown territory. That we need to feel certain that every move is the right move. And that we need to feel confident before we can be brave. And when we yield to that voice, we start shrinking instead of stretching. We delay decisions. We silence our ideas. We stay in places longer than we should, only because it feels familiar, even though we know God is nudging us towards something more. And all of these reactions have nothing to do with our capability, but rather they are an outward result of inner fear. Fear that our growth might expose our weaknesses before we have a chance to shine in all of our strengths. But here's something I want you to hear. Growth and becoming the woman that God created you to be was never intended to be used to prove your worthiness. It's meant to shape you in the becoming so that you can be all that God designed you to be. So perhaps here is where we need a spiritual reframe. Our willingness to grow out loud, to be seen in the transition, is directly linked to our view of God. And this is what I mean by that. If our view of God is distorted, we will shrink back every time God wants to stretch us. But here's what I want to share about God. He is standing on the other side of your growth, cheering you on. He'll lead you every step of the way with patience. And He's not concerned about you getting everything right. Truth is, He's at work within you while you're growing. He isn't rushing you, and He isn't grading your progress. Rather, He's surrounding you with His tender presence so that you can move forward with His peace. Think about this. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is to take steps forward before we feel ready. And I know for us women, that could be scary. But if we trust God in the process and understand that He is already with us in all of the becoming, that fear will dissipate. So let me ask you something. Where have you been holding yourself back? Where have you been waiting to feel more confident before you begin, more certain before you speak, or more prepared before you step forward? Here's a thought for you. What if being courageous looks different than what you expected? What if it doesn't look like boldness, but simply looks like willingness? Willingness to try, willingness to learn, to experiment, willingness to grow in real time, regardless of who's watching. Because here's the truth. You are designed to become all that God created you to be in real time, to grow out loud, figuring it out as you go along. Your transformation, it isn't waiting on perfection. It's waiting on your willingness. And maybe this next statement, well, it might actually be the most important thing you hear today. We don't grow in order to become worthy. We grow from a place of knowing we are already worthy. We don't become the truest versions of ourselves so God would love us more. We become because He already loves us deeply. Lean into this truth. Divine growth isn't about becoming someone else. It's about awakening what's already inside of you. That deserves a slight pause right there. Take that in. I'm going to close our time together today with a bit of encouragement. Give yourself permission to blossom into the most beautiful version of yourself, to step forward even when you don't have every answer, and to trust God right in the middle of your learning process, and to believe that every step you take in faith truly matters. And this is important because it doesn't just matter for you. It matters for the people who are watching your life, even the ones you don't realize are paying attention. There's a young woman, a friend, a relative, or someone you haven't yet met who is quietly looking for someone who is willing to model what it looks like to grow out loud. Are you willing to show what that journey actually looks like in real time? The ups, the downs, and everything in between? Because the world around us needs to see that there's a better way to walk through our everyday life in faith. If you feel a quiet nudge to step out, to try again, to trust again, know this: I am cheering you on. And if you want support on that journey, reach out anytime. You'll find everything you need to connect with me in the show notes. I'm here for you. And even more importantly, God is already with you in your becoming. Wherever you are on your faith journey, embrace this truth. You are chosen. You are loved. You are amazing by design.